This young woman made the decision to meet up with her childhood gorillas after a 12-year absence, prior to their release back into the wild. Though she wasn't sure if they would still recognize her, she wasn't prepared for what the gorillas did. In order to reconcile with gorillas that had previously sought safety at their family's Howlett's wild animal park, Tany Aspen and her father Damian set off on a trek. Tany was overcome with conflicting feelings that she couldn't get rid of. Now she would finally get to see these magnificent creatures again. It had been 12 years since they were separated and put into the wild, their natural environment. The noises of the bush surrounded them as the boat they were traveling in anchored. Damian took the position because of his background as a conservationist and animal lover. Tany trailed following, her pulse pounding with a mixture of nervousness and excitement. Deep down, she missed the relationship she had formed at the age of 18 months with two very special gorillas, Jalta and Bims. After all this time, she worried if they would still recognize her. It had been 12 years, and her appearance had changed dramatically. Furthermore, there was an element of uncertainty due to gorillas' unpredictable behavior. Would their friendship remain the same, or had the hard existence in the forest changed how they saw people? Carrying backpacks, Tany and her father made their way through the thick undergrowth, keeping a watch out for any indications of the gorillas. They were soon pointed in the correct way by Damian's prior experience, tracking gorillas in their region. Stepping out a bit more, and there they were, the mature, self-sustaining gorillas. The gorillas made warning noises at first, protective, but Tany noticed two of them. She met their gaze and experienced a mixture of exhilaration and fear as the gorillas ambled in her direction. Tany pondered whether it was an acknowledgement or a threat. She was aware of their identities, but were they aware of hers? Did they recall all the years they'd known each other as their best friends? Tany thought back to the times when her father had saved these gorillas from a precarious situation in which they were too frail to live in the wild. At Howlett's Wild Animal Park, Damian had devoted his life to ensuring their welfare as they awaited their eventual return to their native environment. For the gorillas and the people who were taking care of them, it was a journey towards rehabilitation. Tany was taken back in time to the difficulties her father had persuading others of the kindness inherent in these untamed animals. Gorillas were known to injure people because they were erratic and occasionally dangerous. But Damian looked past appearances and understood the agony they had suffered at the hands of wild poachers. He was aware that these magnificent creatures were capable of regaining their trust with enough time and compassion. There were tense occasions in Howlett's early years. Gorillas reacted defensively to rapid movements because they were unfamiliar with their environment and were plagued by prior experiences. In attempting to care for them, a few employees had suffered injuries, but Damian didn't give up. He would interact with the gorillas by calling out to them, playing with them, and building a bond that went beyond fear. Damian's bond with the gorillas quickly developed into a close one. His kind demeanor, combined with his constant dedication to their welfare, built a bridge of trust between the species. Born into a world where her father was adamant about the goodness of gorillas, Tany Aspen soon discovered that she had a very special childhood. Damian overcame the anxieties of people around him, even as a toddler taking her first steps, and let Tany play with the gorillas at Howlett's Wild Animal Park. Damian recognized an opportunity for his daughter to bond with these amazing creatures, despite his worries that she would be hurt. Tany's connections with the gorillas evolved as she did. She was too young and frail for the other animals to see her as a threat at 18 months old, and the gorillas recognized her innocence from her movements. They soon developed a bond that went beyond the differences between gorillas and humans. All the gorillas were dear to Tany, but she felt an even stronger bond than anyone could have imagined with Jalta and Bims. Tany couldn't help but think back to those early days, playing with Jalta and Bims, creating a bond that defied expectations of the animal kingdom. and her delighted giggles filling the air as they ran together. The small girl and the gorillas sharing tender moments, as though they were a family, has become a regular occurrence. Despite her youth, Tany did not perceive any distinction between herself and her companion gorillas. It wasn't until she was a certain age that she realized they weren't human like her. From a naive viewpoint, these gorillas were her playmates and companions, and their affection was unconditional. Gradually, the truth came to light, and it strengthened their special bond even more. Tany accepted that her closest pals belonged to the animal realm, even though she was now well aware of their distinctions. Damian, the ever-loving parent and animal advocate, captured these incredible moments at the Aspen Foundation in the meantime. He immortalized Tany, Jalta, and Bim's joyous bond by filming their amusing exchanges. In addition to being a sentimental keepsake, the video demonstrated the amazing link that can develop between people and animals when handled with compassion and empathy. But eventually, Tany Aspen realized it was time to put the gorillas back into the wild because he was conflicted about their well-being and the emotional ties that had been forged. Once providing sanctuary for these animals, Howlett's Wild Animal Park had fulfilled its mission by rehabilitating them to the point where they could flourish in their native environment. Now a grown girl of roughly 12, Tany stood on the brink of an impending parting, her heart heavy with the impending loss. She attempted to persuade her father to delay the release since she could not bear the thought of never seeing Jalta and Bims again. She begged, her eyes welling with tears, "Dad, can't we keep them a little longer? I find it unbearable to consider saying go." Damian knelt down and said, "I feel the same, sweetheart, but it's for the best," realizing how deeply Tany felt for the gorillas. For them to live freely and prosper independently, they must be back in the wild, where they belong. Anxiety and sorrow pervaded the air as the day of release drew near. Knowing what was to come, Damian had built a wooden bridge across a creek to represent the escape from confinement into the great outdoors. Sensing Tany's departure, Jalta and Bims gathered around her on that unforgettable day. They huddled up to her, chanting in their own humorous way,